Hi Homeworthy, I'm Emily. Welcome to my home in London. I can't wait to show you around. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Emily Penn. I'm an interior architect and welcome to my Victorian terrace home in London. When we first viewed this house, it was really derelict. There were about 5 different sets of people living in this house, and there were only perhaps 4 rooms that people could sleep in. What we really loved about it was because it was super untouched and not a lot of work had been done to it. So it was a clean slate. It was probably in its worst state that it could be in at the time. And we saw a lot of potential. It had a lot of really good natural lighting, which you'll see in and around the different rooms in a little bit. And it felt like a really good place to be a starting project for both my partner and I. So we both loved it. Welcome to our living room. This is where we spend most of our evenings. My partner loves watching TV, so we wanted it to be very cozy and very snug. It's color drenched in this really beautiful moss green. In the evening, the light that emits from this pendant kind of really makes the space feel very movie theater-like, which I really love. And this room is where we snuggle with our dog, spend our evenings to decompress, watch TV, have our evening meals, and kind of just chill out. I am quite a big floral person. I think I have a secret dream of becoming a florist one day. So you'll see little floral themes and little accents throughout the house. This photo and art piece is by Casey Moore. I really love it. I am a huge collector of art pieces that have a lot of movement, and it has a lot of dynamic textures, and the composition is super interesting. I'm really drawn to it, and I feel like it really anchors the space nicely. So the sofa is from Love Your Home. I think sofas and anything your butt touches in a house should be where you invest your money, because we spend a lot of time sitting, and we wanted a sofa where we could truly lounge in. And I loved sleeping in this sofa when I'm tired or just having a nap. It is a 3-person sofa, and I wanted something light to contrast with the wall color, but it's very comfortable, and I would recommend for everybody to come and have a try. These sash windows were restored. They're double glazed, but I think it gives a very lovely frame to the outside, and really lovely frame from the outside to kind of have a little peek into our living space. We wanted velvet drapes, so to kind of help the space feel as big as possible. I wanted to also introduce these floor to ceiling length curtains that were in the same color, so you kind of read the room as one. But it's a different texture, so I think it lends and adds a little bit of interest to the window treatment as well. And privacy is also very important, especially because we're on the ground floor, so curtains, cafe curtains were really a small detail that we added to kind of help with privacy as well, and texture. There are lots of things in the house that are reclaimed or secondhand found through eBay. I'm a little bit of an eBay fiend, so I have had to limit myself to get one eBay item a month rather than spending too much and going on a shopping spree on eBay. But this lampshade is Monroe and Kerr, I think. And the base of the floor lamp is from eBay. I sourced it, and I don't know how old it is, but it looks really old, and the listing had implied that it's quite an old piece of furniture. Has really intricate details, and I love it. It kind of adds, again, a lot of texture and intricate details to this room. This chair base was reclaimed from eBay. So it was covered in quite an old fabric, and I went to go collect it from somebody, found on eBay for £20. And when I got this chair upholstered, it felt really rewarding because it was one of the first things that came home, and it meant that I was close to the end, essentially. I wanted to have open shelving here, so to house our books, to house our memories, photographs, little trinkets that kind of display who we are. I love when people come into our house and look at our bookshelves and figure out if we would get along. I love that people can tell who you are by the books that you read. And there was a time that I really got into the price of gold. I was a little bit obsessed with gold and being able to invest in gold. So I told all my friends about how my next goal in life is to own a 12.5 kilo gold bar. So for my birthday one year, two friends of mine bought this really, really small gold chip that's worth £70. It's probably worth more now. And I framed it, and it's now on our shelf. So if there was ever an apocalypse, I would grab it and run, and it will buy me passage to wherever I want to go. So this fireplace was restored. When we moved in, it was boarded up actually with brick wallpaper. I'm not too sure why. It was interesting, but was really a lovely surprise. And when we uncovered it, we found the slate hearth, the surround, and actually this we maybe bought from eBay, if I remember correctly. So I think this and the hearth was what was retained, and we bought this surround from eBay to kind of frame it all together, painted it the same color as the wall. And it's an active fireplace. So in the winter, it is so cozy, so lovely. I love a fire. I think all my friends and family, when they come visit us during Christmas period and this fire is on, it gives such a sense of warmth, and I think humans are so drawn to fire. It's a really, really lovely kind of central focal point for people to kind of congregate, and I love that. This rug was also an eBay find. I spent a lot of time kind of waiting for the right thing to come on the market. So I think the trick with eBay is really a lot of patience and kind of knowing where to look for things or how to navigate the platform. But the rug is from eBay. I love that it's a neutral color. It goes really lovely and well with our timber flooring and our sofa. Just adds a subtle pattern to the details of the room. And this coffee table was a Facebook Market find. I wanted something that was very chunky. I personally have a dislike for skinny legs on tables. So you see all of our tables in our house has a very, very angular profile. And it's very simple, but very, very beautiful. So I'm a little bit of a collector, as you can tell. I spent a little bit of time doing pottery classes, so some of this is my own making. And I collect things again from eBay from my travels, just displaying my life in and around my house. I love candles. I love using scent to kind of anchor spaces when we have guests over. So you'll see candles kind of dotting in and around the house. Palo Santo to make sure the bad spirits and the bad juju are outside of the house rather than inside of the house. Most of our doors, actually probably all of our doors in our house, are reclaimed. This one again is from eBay. You'll probably be sick of me saying the word eBay by the end of this video. But reclaimed from eBay, we stripped it ourselves and restained and refinished it. Added these handles from Jim Lawrence, and it's a pocket system. So when we are in this room watching a movie and these doors are closed at the same time, it acts as a really good acoustic isolated space away from the kitchen and the office. It's a old Victorian home. It was probably built in the late 1800s. So it feels really strange to be living in a piece of history that was built at a time when I wasn't even born or alive. So it felt a lot like we are custodians to this really special part of history. And it has very, very classic details like your Victorian cornices, ceiling roses, which we reinstated when we originally bought the house. Some of the original features were stripped away. So we spent a lot of time and energy trying to reinstate some of your very typical timber sash windows. You'll also see in the front that there is the London stock brick that we resurfaced. It was originally pebble dashed, and this house really suffered from damp and mold and ventilation issues. So it was really key for both my partner and I to prioritize those elements to kind of bring life back into the house and make sure that it's healthy again, and kind of facilitate us and our lifestyle as a family unit. Welcome to our kitchen. So this is where the rear and side extension were built. This is probably our largest space in the house and the one that we occupy and use the most. You'll see in the space that there are these timber baffles that we kind of wanted to introduce, and because we didn't want super big skylights because of cost, we wanted to limit the skylight panes and the sizes of them, but also add a bit of architectural interest to make sure the shadows weren't cast in a way that would illuminate the floor and the space to generate too much heat in the summertime. So I think these baffles are a really lovely detail. They're made out of oak, and we finished them in this color, and they kind of age with time, especially in the sun now. I'm a huge pottery fan, and this is a feature shelving that I wanted to be a focal point in our kitchen. I have lots of friends and family that come thinking that these are not the plates and bowls that they should use, but they're very much the plates and bowls that we use every day. I like that they're exposed and you can kind of help yourself and choose which bowl and which plate you want to use with your pasta, with your porridge, with your meal. And we painted it in this lovely red tone, which you'll see kind of repeating itself throughout the house. And red is a bit of a neutral for me. I don't think it's a color. It's kind of falling in the same category as a white or a beige. So I use it a lot in our house as a backdrop and a background. And it kind of displays really nicely. It helps kind of ground the room, and yeah, you're just really drawn to it when you're in the space, which I really love. And the floors is one of the feature element and design choices that we made. They're reclaimed quarry tiles. I really love turning really mundane and very overused materials kind of on its head. Quarry tiles are used externally and outdoors throughout the UK. I think it's a very standard building material, I would say. And using it to lay as a feature flooring in our kitchen was both a functional choice as well as an aesthetic. It's super hard wearing, it's very durable. In kitchens, you spill food, you spill oils, and it's a floor that kind of is very forgiving. And it adds a lot of interest, especially within this checkerboard pattern. These sconces on the side wall are actually from Greece, and they were shipped here, and I love that they kind of let this really soft glow that spreads over this wall. I didn't really want it to be super complicated or overfilled. I didn't want to have big art pieces on this wall because the floor was so busy. I wanted to make sure that there was a good balance between the textures in the room, so not too many elements were competing. I think these wall lights are exactly the right balance of a very beautiful form, but simple enough that it kind of recedes back to the backdrop of the space rather than it being the focal of the room. So this dining table is from eBay. And when it arrived, it was vanished and very yellow. We spent a couple of days sanding and stripping the varnish that it had on it and stained it this nice color because we bought these church pew chairs, again from eBay, and I wanted to kind of look like they came together. Timber is very used as a material choice in this house, and it kind of ages with us. You'll see lots of little marks from the dinners we have, the parties we have with friends, and it marks nicely. I don't mind it so much. It kind of tells its own story through time. This window seat was a little bit of a happy accident when we went to planning to ask for permission. Originally, the design idea was to have a flat roof extension. So the council actually rejected that design iteration and had asked us to amend it to make sure the side extension was pitched to allow for neighbors' views and right to light be respected, which is absolutely fine. And when that kind of came through and we looked at the design of the architecture again, I wanted to step the side extension back. So from the outside, it was read as a different mass. And internally, this is kind of what was iterated in that form. This window seat was built for our dog, Harold. He sits on here to watch cats, and he's the security guard for our garden, and he loves the space. I sometimes sit here with him and have cuddles. I read my book, go on my phone, watch Instagram reels. It's really nice, and it frames the garden so nicely. I'm a big gardener now since we've had this house, so it's a really lovely portal to the outside during winter as well. I love a little bit of inside, outside, blending the boundaries between the two, and this does it really nicely. I am obsessed with fishy things, especially fish things that kind of iterate themselves in homes. I'm a diver, so the ocean is like a huge thing for me. So this jelly mold that's a fish was gifted to me actually by an antique dealer / friend, Jess. When we designed this kitchen, I wanted something really simplistic because again, the floor was the feature of the space, and we had our joiner bespoke build this kitchen. It's MDF veneered with oak, and we wanted it to be horizontal grained. You'll see that it's matched all the way through, so the veneer is actually a large piece that was cut door to door, and he wants to make sure everyone knows this every time I talk about the kitchen, but very meticulously matched to have a very seamless finish. And the top is a quartz top because it's relatively inexpensive. We wanted something very durable. It's a matte finish, not a glossy one, so it doesn't compete with too many of the finishes and textures in this house. And just a nice little upstand. This is kind of where we prep our food, toast our bread, make tea. And yeah, this is our main prepping space, and love displaying knives really openly, like we're chefs, but we're definitely not chefs. But easy access of knives is good. I'm big into open shelving, and I love displaying things in and around the house. So this is where we put all of our glasses. So again, super easy access. So when people come in, they're like, oh, where can I get my bowl, or where can I get my glass? And they can see it and just basically help themselves. So this is our sink, and we wanted a double sink because we eat a lot. We're both hungry eaters, and wanted to make sure there was enough space to kind of plop our lunch, breakfast, dinner plates before we needed to deal with it in the evening. And this is kind of our wet zone, if you will. This is our dishwasher. We have some spice drawers here next to the hob and oven. Again, a display of little bits. I don't particularly use them all the time, but they are pretty. And I like sometimes just collecting items and displaying them on the wall. This is another fish mold that was gifted to me by Jess on my birthday. Yeah, she knows I'm a bit of a fish fan. We have this lamp here in the corner. This is, again, a super dark space, especially in this room. It's the furthest away from the doors and the windows and skylight. So this is the first thing that lights this room, and it's not overly bright. When we come down here in the kitchen in the morning, it's the only thing that's on. It's on an auto timer essentially, so it turns on and off by itself. So there's always a little light for if you're thirsty in the middle of the night, it just guides you. This is a bespoke island, and when I designed it, I wanted it to look like a furniture item, so it felt floating almost and airless. And I think typical kitchen islands in the middle of spaces are all the way to the floor and super bulky. I wanted something super airy. I spend most of my days working here actually and perched. It's at a bar height rather than a counter height, which is quite nice because when we have parties and when we have people over, they use this as an additional space to kind of put their food and drinks on. But also it's powered. So I think one of the really cool things about this island is seeing that the legs are really thin and then figuring out it's actually powered, and you go, how is it powered? But it's very well detailed and hidden through the leg of the island. And you'll see, if you observe really carefully, there's a seam where the cable's kind of fed through, and there's a channel to directly feed the power onto the side. So this is where I work. I charge my phone, my computer throughout the day here. When we bought the house, we knew it required some huge uplift in terms of energy, money, and time. We knew that we wanted to do a rear and side extension, which is something that I think is quite typical of a terraced home in London. We wanted to enlarge the spaces to kind of maximize and optimize the flow of the house. There wasn't particularly one place or one room that we started with because all of it kind of needed to be done. But we wanted to kind of redo our master bedroom so that we could live here while we waited for construction to start, because there was a little bit of wait time between designing, going out to find a builder, and the builder being able to start. So our master bedroom was one of the places that we wanted to make sure it was like a little haven for us while the rest of the house was still looking pretty bare and very sorry for itself. So the second phase of the build really was everything that you'll see in most of the rooms, the kitchen, the extension, the heavy lifting structural work kind of came in when the builder started. So this is our garden. I spoke to this earlier, but this is our rear extension brick. It's just a standard London brick stock against our side extension, which is in a charred timber. It's a nice black mass, which is separated from our rear extension. I wanted it to be read as separate forms rather than its own thing because of the angularity of the sloped and pitched roof. So this table is actually a zinc top with super mobile legs to make sure that it's very easy to move. Sometimes when we have more people and a bigger party, we will rotate the table to make sure that more people can sit on the bench and some on the chairs. I spent a really, really long time looking for chairs to go with the table, and these chairs were sourced, again, on eBay. They come from a French vineyard, and I'm sure the vineyard probably were getting tired of these red chairs, but I saw them and I said, they are coming home with me. So they are from, I think, the south of France, and they're labeled actually on the back of the chair of the vineyard. I love that there's a little story and history to them. I looked up the vineyard, so one day maybe I'll go to the vineyard to kind of close that circle and close that loop. But again, a lovely feature. Again, a red element that's introduced in our garden. These wall lights externally are actually the same form as the ones in our kitchen, but they're black. I wanted to not overcomplicate things, especially sometimes with materials. I think choosing too many will make the space look too busy. So a lot of my design scheme and design choices in the house are actually, if not the same, it would be similar. So these are just black and the same shape and same form as the one in the kitchen. I have never gardened ever before prior to moving into this house. I obviously lived in Malaysia, which isn't really a big gardening culture. We just have lots of plants and lots of trees. It's a rainforest climate, so we kind of just have greenery all around us. And being very prescriptive with gardening and with plants is not something that I grew up with. And then when I moved to Hong Kong, there was definitely no greenery there. And I always lived in smaller flats when I moved to London. So this is actually the first garden space that I have. When we designed the garden, I wasn't too sure that I was going to actually get my hands dirty and do it myself. So we had a really lovely garden designer, Susanna, who I often work with now, to help us with the planting plan. She helped me choose the plants, where to plant them. She asked me whether I would garden, and I told her, look, I have no idea. So I think she mixed in a variety of things to kind of see, and I start seeds myself now. I do a lot of plants that flower. I recently, last year, started growing flowers from seed, which is super, super rewarding. It's like growing a baby from scratch, so it feels very, very satisfying, very grounding, very therapeutic when I'm out here. I make sure every morning when I come downstairs after I wake up is the garden. I just come out here and walk, touch the grass, and I know it feels really silly to say, but it feels like I get back into reality and back into my body and really ground myself for the rest of the day. I think my tip for gardening is just start. I don't think there is necessarily a right or wrong way to do nature. And probably my garden designer, Susanna, would agree is it's trial and error. There's no right or wrong. It's plants, you, and soil and water. Whatever you gravitate towards going to the nursery, maybe you just pick a plant up, put it in the ground and see what happens. I think there's no perfection, so it kind of breaks away the mold of having it to be perfect, and you kind of learn on the go, you iterate, and you kind of develop your skills as you go along. And I'm by no means a good gardener, but I know I just really, really love it. A lot of what I do with work is always being considered and thoughtful in design choices. And I think when looking at homes, being able to consider every element is really important to me. This planter bench was actually integrated in the early design iterations, which also had an effect on the architecture and also subsequently had effect onto the interior space of the kitchen. This planter bench seat was built by a carpenter with marine grade ply and solid timber. So under the bench seating is actually apple crates that I sourced from eBay. They house all my gardening tools, some outdoor bits that can stay outside, and I just think it's a really, really nice functional item, but integrates really lovely and really well into our garden space. Our clay pavers were something that were chosen very deliberately for the front and the back garden. I wanted, whenever you come into the house, you kind of pick up this design element and this material at the front garden, and then you see it again in this space in the garden at the back. And how we laid it is different from front to back. In the back, it's actually stacked directionally, kind of pointing towards the rear of the space. The garden is designed in a way that there's another small seating area at the back. It's kind of secretive. It's a bit more intimate when it's super sunny here because we're in facing south. You can kind of go into the back corner and sit there and be in the shade and have a little intimate lunch, which I sometimes do with my partner. And these pavers, I wanted to kind of be integrated in the plants, so it kind of becomes a part of the landscape rather than these really big chunky steps that you often see perhaps in paving stones. And yeah, just keeping the material super, super simple, but being very intentional and thoughtful with it. So I came from a commercial interior architecture background, so I historically have always done large-scale buildings, campuses, office blocks, and worked with companies via consultancy basis or sometimes in-house for companies to kind of build out really, really large spaces to get people working in them. So when we took on this residential project, it was very different. It really challenged my design thinking. There was a lot more in the detail and in the tactility of all the smaller things in homes that I probably previously hadn't really thought of when I was designing offices or larger campuses. So I think it kind of activated different parts of my design brain. And now with my own company, having just recently founded and helping other clients kind of walk through their own home renovation journey, I find that it's really rewarding to kind of take them through the arc, because I think homes are such treasured, precious parts of everybody's lives. I feel really very honored and grateful to be able to be part of that journey. I don't know if I have a design style per se, because I think it kind of iterates and evolves with time. I draw a lot of my inspiration through hotels I stay in, or cafes that I go to, restaurants that I go to. I really, really enjoy observing and analyzing social spaces because I love observing people, and kind of what led me to do what I do now creatively. And I think when people come together and the space that they kind of inhabit and be a part of, it suddenly becomes this hub and facilitates and becomes the backdrop and background of people experiencing life. And I think that's really, really cool. So I sometimes draw inspiration from spaces I go. I love going to other people's homes and seeing how other people live, and drawing inspiration just from natural living, the day-to-day. So yeah, no style in particular, but just taking little bits of through my life, really. This is our powder room. It's the smallest space in the house, but very, very functional. So I wanted to decorate it in a little bit of a more daring and fun way. So the space is drenched in a yellow with a really, really lovely detailing of a red stripe on the rail of the panel. We actually recently redecorated the space, and a lot of the materials was kind of a little bit more whimsical, if you will. A lot of the elements here are actually sourced from eBay, so secondhand. I wanted to pack a lot into this room visually so that you come in, you feel like you're powdering your nose and doing your makeup, and making sure that it's a space that guests feel like, well, actually there's isn't just a toilet, but there's a lot of interest in this room too. We have exposed copper taps in this space. I have a love-hate relationship with exposed copper taps. They're a lovely visual feature, but I think functionally they're quite a pain to kind of help constrict the flow of water. But I think it is such a industrial-looking element that kind of contrasts with the very feminine touch of the decoration of the space. I also sourced a lot of hardware, and the mirror from eBay. They're quite dark, contrasting with this very light paint color throughout the room. I am again a collector of art pieces, especially vintage ones as well, and this piece of painting is actually by Walter Tyndale, and he has a collection of watercolor illustrations and paintings. This was actually found on Solus Art, and I framed it, put it on this really lovely red velvet ribbon to hang it over the back wall. Again, it's this red element that kind of pops in and out throughout the house. This door is actually a part of the original door sets that we had in the house when we moved in. This upper pane is actually in glass. The glass was broken, unfortunately, so we had to replace it with this fluted element. I don't think this is glass anymore, but again, it kind of lends itself to this privacy, but has a very easy access to the kitchen and the dining space. I find that when there is no window or access to the outside in an internal room, I like to introduce elements that kind of have an opening to help you feel like the room isn't as small as it actually is. So this element introduces light from our skylight, and this curtain is just to give you a little bit of privacy when you're in this space, but you can draw it open if you don't want privacy when you're in this room. The pendant here is by Beata, and I love interesting lighting fixtures. I find that there's so many cool things you can do with lights, and it draws your attention from a very ground plane or middle plane up to the ceiling. So it's a really nice way to kind of elongate your space and make your space as full as possible. So this light is actually in fabric with a lovely bow detail and a red ceiling rose, and I think it completes the space really nicely, adds to that feminine touch of a powder room. We have these raw terracotta tiles from Burton May, and I wanted it to be very raw and unfinished. I think kind of sitting next to the quarry tiles, you want something that isn't super contrasty or very vibrant. I wanted it to be very neutral in its color, but interesting enough to sit next to the quarry tiles. So the raw terracotta kind of grounds the space a little. You come in and you read the floor tiles with a little bit more interest, and then you kind of read the rest of the room as you go along. So it's a nice detail with a lovely little border around it. I have a thing about hidden plumbing or hidden mechanicals in buildings, especially in homes, because they can look really ugly and they're necessary, but not necessarily something that you want to read when you first walk into a room. So our extraction in the house is very well thought out. I have this concealed extractor valve in all of our bathrooms that are painted and plastered in, essentially. So it's not this bulky item that stands out and you have to paint it retrospectively. But yeah, it's just round. It's attached to an inline unit and also extracts really well, very efficiently, to make sure there are no moisture in spaces where you don't want moisture in. My favorite thing about my home is how it was able to, well, how we were able to really balance aesthetic and functionality. I think my partner and I, my partner's really treasured on making sure that things are practical and very functional in the way that it can't just look good, it also has to serve its purpose. And I agree, form following function and making sure that everything is very considered and thoughtful is something that I think has been a red thread throughout the house. There isn't necessarily a space that I would say is my favorite, because I think the most important thing for me was being able to introduce a very cohesive flow through the house, and also that it functions for us, and particularly when I think a home is built for its users, and that is probably the barometer of success for me. So I would say that's my favorite thing. I think the people and its inhabitants give soul to people's homes. It might be a little cliche to say, but I think a home is not a home without its inhabitants or without its people. So being able to be very personalized and being able to customize your space to who you are is something that I really love to witness through my clients and through other people through social media. Being able to see that, you know, people have children, their children are doing sketches and putting these sketches on the wall. I really love little personalized tidbits like that. Before we go upstairs, I just want to show you our front door, which is an element that we reintroduced for the house. It's something that makes me so happy to come home to. We painted it in a green, and stained glass is such a fun element in Victorian homes that I think adds a lot of interest, a lot of texture to an otherwise quite functional item like a door. So this is our master bedroom, and I really wanted this bed canopy recently. So it's actually a DIY element that we did over Christmas time, and my mom helped me sew it together. I think personally, I really don't love headboards. I think having to commit to a really expensive item like a headboard is too much for me. So I initially just had these really big oversized pillows that acted like our headboard. And retrospectively, we wanted to do this canopy to kind of help us feel like we're living in a castle. And this art piece is by Alexandra Coe. I actually commissioned her to do this piece for us, and it sits really lovely and really nicely above our bed. I really love the way that she draws and observes the human form. So really feel very honored to be able to have a piece of her artwork in our home, like our bedroom. These Murano wall sconces were sourced from Victorian, finally, not something from eBay, and they were something I just fell in love with when I first saw them, and I just had to get them. They were shipped from Italy to me when we first bought the house, and I really love that they look like mushrooms. I also have an affinity about mushrooms, so they are so cute. They emit this really soft glow when we turn them on in the evening. Just helps kind of anchor both sides of the bed. The fireplace in this room has original green tiles, so a lot of the colors that were introduced into this room are actually drawn out of the fireplace itself. I felt like we needed to be in keeping and very respectful of the original features. So checkered pattern you see a lot throughout the house, obviously in the kitchen on the floor, but this bedspread again is another really fun element to kind of add a little bit more interest to the space. But I wanted everything else in this room to feel very cozy and neutral. This is a space that we kind of come and decompress when we go to sleep. I didn't want anything to be overstimulating in the colors or the textures, so everything we chose in here were very much things that soothe and calm me. So this is our original fireplace. So everything here actually was in this house. This surround is slate. It was originally in the living room that we moved up here. These tiles are so beautiful, as well as the floor hearth tiles. They are something that I don't think I'll be able to find now anywhere, and I wanted to be able to retain as much of it as possible, even though some of it is cracked and some of it is not in its best condition. But again, in the evenings of winter when I light a fire and we go to sleep with it, it feels like such a luxury and not something that I would have ever dreamed of a couple years ago or as a young girl. It feels like I'm sleeping in a princess bed with my canopy with the fire lit. I really enjoy it. It feels like a little treat for me. This is where I get ready every morning, where I dry my hair, where I do my makeup. Feels like a really lovely place to do it because I get a lot of natural light from the bay window, and the table itself is from eBay, as well as the chair. I love the detailing of this chair, even though it's really flimsy, and I'm just waiting for the day where it just breaks when I sit down on it. But again, just very thoughtful craftsmanship when this was built. A lot of curved elements in the dressing table and the chair itself. It feels like it was meant to be, and it was made as if it was a set, but it wasn't at all, and I just sourced them both separately. So a lot of the original features, like the cornices and the ceiling rose, we had to introduce. Plaster work in this house was very expensive, unfortunately, even though I didn't really want to spend an arm and a leg on cornices. But I feel like they are such a beautiful craft, and one that probably won't last for a very long time, unfortunately. And the ceiling rose I just fell in love with, again, because I love flowers and have a secret obsession about being a florist. So it's another floral element that's introduced into the room, kind of mirroring the same fireplace tiles on the floor as well as the hearth. On this floor, we wanted to keep the existing timber. Good and bad thing, depending on how you view it. But when we hired our floor specialist to come help us sand it, they said that they had never been sanded before, which means that they were basically virgin and fresh timber. They spent a lot more blood, sweat, and tears to do so because a thick layer of grime were built up on it. But it did mean that anything we did was going to be better than what it was before. They are pine timber floors, and then we stained them to make them a little bit darker, like an oak tint, and then sealed it. And I think they are a little bit creaky, not super perfect, but I really, really love them. I'm glad we were able to preserve and retain most of them. So this is our laundry space. We don't have our washing machine here, but it was a space that kind of naturally became our laundry space. I hate doing laundry in spaces that are functional, like the kitchen or the bathroom, and being able to dedicate a space just for laundry feels like a luxury, but I'm very, very glad that we do. And the space also is where I kind of sit and chill and decompress sometimes. It has a really cute little chair. I collected all of this art and I displayed them here with some plates, with some ceramics. Theoretically, this is the third bedroom that we have in the house, but we now use it as a laundry space, obviously. I didn't really want to hang a door to make it feel even more restrictive. So this is a little door curtain because it's also kind of where we change in the morning. So it acts a little bit like a dressing space. And I really like this detail. So this wall light here is from Etsy. Sometimes I change it up from eBay to Etsy to find secondhand goods. But again, super, super cute. I love chunky things. I think it's a really nice detail. Obviously turned with this really beautiful chunky spine that it has. And yeah, sometimes I turn the light on when I'm reading in here or when the space is a bit dark in the evening. I wanted this room to be in a yellow because I wanted it to be a little bit of a happy and uplifting space because I knew it was going to be quite a functional room to do either work as an office or laundry or anything related to quite a mundane household chore and task. I wanted to paint it in this India yellow, which really grounds the space, makes you feel a little bit more uplifted and happy with this wallpaper border. I think it draws in the purple in the timber and the woodworks really nicely. So it feels quite whimsical, kind of like the powder room on the ground floor too. I am from Malaysia originally, so I grew up actually living with my grandparents, and they used to make locks. So I grew up next to a factory. My house was incredibly functional, and my connotation to home when I was younger was always being able to kind of live off our home, and our home needed to be a way to kind of facilitate our living in somehow. And I moved to Hong Kong, which also meant that my space kind of shrunk because in Hong Kong apartments are really small, real estate is very sought after. So my meaning or the definition of home kind of shifted through my youth to be very functional and very boxy. And ever since I studied interior architecture and now living in the UK, it has become a lot more aesthetic driven. So now I feel like a lot of what I do is kind of balance my identity between the uber functional of, making sure that things just serve a purpose without having to think about what it looks like. And now living in a society and probably in a time where everything is so visually driven. So I think balancing those two is probably what home means to me now, and trying to understand how a home can both be functional but beautiful at the same time. Homeworthy, it was so lovely showing you around my house in London. but you guys have to go now, so I'll see you later.